The day my father abandoned me. I saw this comment. The hero is infertile because of saving the heroine. He is so gentle and kind. Which lucky child will be adopted by him? I want to recognize the male protagonist as my father, but I recognized the wrong person. When the barrage appeared again, it screamed, "How dare this kid put the villain's hair in a braid?" I was horrified. "Don't you like braids?" The villain who was in the video conference said sullenly. "I like it. Today is my 7th birthday. I am so happy. Because the teacher asked all the children in the class to sing a birthday song for me. No one has sung happy birthday to me since my mom passed away. Also because I got 100 points for my composition. He was the only one in the class who scored 100 points. If my dad knew this, he would be so happy that he would lift me above his head and spin me around." After waiting for a long time for school to be over, I rushed to my father like a rocket. He held the essay high up and said, "Look, Dad, I got a perfect score on my essay." Dad didn't read my composition. He just smiled. "Baby, you're awesome. Daddy will take you to KFC. Okay. Don't you always say you want fried chicken and ice cream?" I was so happy. Great. I love celebrating my birthday at KFC the most. "Dad, you finally remembered my birthday." Dad was stunned for a moment. "Today is Olivia's birthday." I was a little sad, but I nodded obediently. "It's okay, Dad. If you can't remember, Olivia can remind you next time." Sitting in KFC, I carefully placed my pink school bag on the table. Hanging on my school bag is the Princess Elsa figure that my mother bought for me. Looking at my dad who was ordering at the counter, I was shaking my legs with joy. I whispered to Elsa, "My dad brought me to KFC today, and we are going to have a happy birthday." I enjoyed the meal very much, but my father was in a daze, as if he had a lot of things hidden in his mind. He didn't even smile when I put ketchup on the tip of my nose. He asked me, "Can Olivia cook?" Actually, I only know how to cook noodles, but I still say I can, because I want to make my dad happy. "That's good, Olivia. Please take good care of yourself." "Okay, Dad. I've been very good recently. I didn't make Auntie angry, and I didn't snatch things from my brother." "Well, Dad knows that Olivia is the most obedient. Can I have a small cake today?" Dad's eyes suddenly turned red. "Okay. Dad will go buy it for you. When you count to 20, Dad will be back." But when I counted to the 20th 20, the Coke stopped bubbling. Dad didn't come back either. Olivia is a kid, but she's not stupid. I know that my father doesn't want me anymore. I looked at Elsa on my school bag and suddenly thought of my mother. My mother loves me very much. She always tells me stories and puts me to sleep. She would also buy me beautiful clothes and fun toys. Later, my mother lay on the hospital bed, her face pale. Everyone said she was going to die. My mother touched my face and told me to listen to my father. Otherwise he would not want me. "But Mom, I have always been very obedient. Why does Dad still not want me?" I thought of my father's new wife, who was always mean to me. She wouldn't let me into her room and wouldn't buy me any delicious food. And there was the newborn little brother. Everyone was surrounding him. It seemed like Olivia no longer existed in that home. Dad has changed too. He no longer hugs and kisses me like before. No longer lifting me above his head and saying he wanted to be my Superman dad. Thinking of this, I took out my perfect essay and read it again and again. The title of this composition is My Superman Dad. I stood up and threw it into the trash can, because now, no one watches it. Just like 7-year-old Olivia, no one wants her anymore. The other children in KFC were holding their parents' hands, go home skipping and beating, except me. So the waiter came over and asked, "Little boy, where is your father?" "I don't have a father." After saying that, I put on my small school bag and walked out of KFC alone. Actually, I can find my way home, but I don't want to go back, because my father is no longer there. I asked Elsa, "Where should Olivia go? Is there anyone who can be Olivia's father?" Olivia is a very good child. Elsa said nothing. But suddenly a lot of words appeared in front of my eyes. The good news is that the hero and heroine are together. The bad news is that Kelsey lost her fertility in order to save the heroine. Wow. The hero really loves her. He loves children very much and is very gentle and kind. He will definitely be a very good father. What a pity! Can you let a 20-year-old baby like me wear it and be his child? Wow. Wow. Which lucky kid will get to be adopted by him? Hermit. Baby. Go and give Kelsey a hug and comfort him. He's at the City First Hospital. Alas. Actually, the villain Keith went to save the heroine first and was injured. But in the end the hero and heroine were together. He turned evil from today. Although I don't understand what a lot of what they said means. But I understand. They say Kelsey is a great dad. Olivia wants to have a good dad. I looked at a City First People's Hospital opposite and seemed to know where I should go. The hospital was filled with a bad smell. I don't like this place because my mother died here. I plucked up my courage and walked in, holding the corner of my clothes. Those words said that the dad's name was Kelsey. So I pulled the nurse's trouser legs. Pretty sister. Do you know where Keith is? The nurse checked the medical records and said, Mr. Keith is in the ward on the 3rd floor. But kid, what do you want to do with him? I raised my face, my eyes sparkling. I'm going to ask him to be my daddy. The nurse's face changed suddenly, and then she looked at me very pitifully. I skipped and hopped to the 3rd floor with my small school bag on my back. I didn't hear the nurse behind me sigh. How could such a cute little sister be Keith's daughter? That guy has a gloomy face all day long. Like a living dead. Only someone like Kelsey should have such a sweet child. I gently pushed open the door of the ward and stood on tiptoe to look through the crack. In the room, a man in hospital gown was cutting his wrists with a fruit knife with an expressionless face. As if it wasn't his hand. Blood as red as watermelon juice flowed out and dripped onto the floor. I was terrified. Then I suddenly remembered those words that said, kiss and hug him to comfort him. So I mustered up the courage to push the door open, holding the strap of my school bag tightly. Uncle, do you want Olivia to kiss you and hug you? My uncle stared at me for a long time and asked slowly, who are you? I blinked and said, I'm Olivia. He looked annoyed. Who is Olivia? I blinked and said, I'm Olivia. He rubbed his brows irritably. What does Olivia want from me? I approached him and looked at the deep wound on his wrist. Why are you cutting yourself? You'll die. He suddenly laughed. Really? That's great. The people my uncle likes don't like him. Anyway, no one will be sad if my uncle dies. I burst into tears. Olivia will be sad. If you die, Olivia will be without a father again. He looked down at me in astonishment. I took off my shoes, climbed onto his bed with my school bag on my back, and gently hugged his neck. I patted him on the back, imitating my mother's example. That's how my mom used to hold me. I didn't feel sad at all when she held me. Now that Olivia is holding you like this, Uncle, are you happier? I felt his body stiffen noticeably, and then a muffled laugh came out. I'm not a kid, I retorted with my eyes wide open. You're not a kid. So what? Adults get sad too, and sad people need a hug. He looked at me for a long time before speaking. Really? No one has ever said that to me. He sounded sad. The beautiful eyes are also wet. So I patted him on the back gently again. Don't be afraid, Uncle. Olivia is here. He raised his arms and hugged me back. Well, thanks to Olivia, Uncle feels much better. I smiled in surprise. Really? Then can you please not die? He didn't say anything. Grown-ups say money is the most important thing in the world. I'll give you all my money. Please don't die. Okay. As I spoke, I took out all the money from my small school bag and placed it solemnly in his palm. Here is $181.50. This is money Olivia has saved for a long time. I can buy lots of lollipops and eat at KFC many times. I will be happy after eating it. I swallowed as I spoke. I'll give you everything. Please don't die. Okay. He still didn't speak. I was so panicked that tears started to fall. He reached out to wipe my tears. Is Olivia stupid? I cried and shook my head. Olivia scored 100 points in every subject. And all the teachers praised Olivia for being smart. His voice was very low. Since you know that money is the most important thing, why do you still give me all the money? I cried even harder. Because I like you more than money. So please don't die. Okay. Uncle's eyes are as red as a little rabbit. Tears rolled down one by one. He turned his face away in embarrassment. Uncle, there is sand in your eyes. I wiped his tears obediently. It's okay. Mom said that you can cry even if you're an adult. You can cry in front of Olivia. I won't laugh at you. I will just feel sorry for you. He stuffed the $181.50 back into my bag. Okay. I promise you. I won't die. And I'll leave this money to Olivia to buy lollipops and eat KFC. I nervously handed him the money again. I heard that you are a big boss selling things. Can you sell yourself to me and be my father? He smiled and scratched the tip of my nose. If I agree to be your dad, your real dad will beat me to death. I shook my head. He won't hit you. He smiled and asked, why? Because I'm handsome. Because he has a new wife and a new son. And he doesn't want me anymore. He was stunned. What about your mother? I lowered my head sadly. She's dead. He stopped talking. I was afraid that he would not want me. So I explained anxiously. He doesn't want me because Olivia is not obedient. I am very obedient. I can do anything. I can cook noodles, comb my hair, go to school, and do my homework. I bought you to be my dad because my classmates would laugh at me if I didn't have a dad. Because I don't have a mother. Xiaopeng says every day that I am a motherless child. I can't live without a father anymore. The more I thought about it, the more scared I became. Finally, I started to cry quietly. I can't live without my dad anymore. The next second, I fell into a warm embrace. A pleasant voice came from above. Our Olivia has a father. From now on, no one will dare to laugh at Olivia anymore. I cheered with joy. Great. Olivia has a dad. He imitated me. Great. Keith has a daughter. I remembered something important, and I lay on the bed and blew on the wound on his wrist. You promised Olivia that you wouldn't die. So don't hurt yourself again. He uttered a soft, I sighed softly. He noticed it keenly. What's wrong? I shook my head. Nothing. I looked up at the ceiling, thinking of the bad brother who always bullied me on the way home from school, and tears of fear flowed down my face. I heard that Keith is a very powerful boss, and that bad brother must be afraid of him. But I thought about it for a long time and finally said nothing. The next day, on the way home from school, my heart was beating like a little rabbit. I closed my eyes silently and prayed. If I hadn't met that bad brother today, I wouldn't eat candy for a week. What candy? Do you have any candy? That nightmarish voice rang above my head. I opened my eyes in despair, and the fat boy in the 4th grade stood in front of me like a wall. He clenched his right hand into a fist and hit my head. Take out the candy. His fists are as hard as stone. I cried out in pain. I don't have any candy. He snatched my school bag roughly and took out the $1.81.05. Ha! I gave this money to Keith last night. Why is it in my school bag again? He seems to be bad at math. He counted several times but still couldn't figure it out. Finally, he got angry and said, You actually have so much money. Give it back to me. Give it back to me. I only reached his chest, and I raised my hands to grab it for a long time but couldn't get it. I was so anxious that tears fell down my cheeks. Give it back to me. This money is what I used to. What is it used for? I just can't say the 3 words. Bye, Dad. Only tears of grievance kept flowing out. This money is mine. I gave it to my dad. My dad is very powerful. If he knew you stole my money today, he would beat you to death. He laughed twice in a wicked way. Dad. So what if your dad knows? You've complained to him about me so many times before. And you were the one who got scolded every time." He snorted. "My dad is your dad's boss. He wouldn't dare to offend my dad." I suddenly remembered the first time I was bullied by him. He pushed me to the ground and my mouth was full of blood. When I got in front of the teacher, he still said in a rude manner that I was not paying attention when I walked. I felt so wrong that my whole body was shaking, but I kept my lips pursed stubbornly and didn't shed a single tear. I told myself not to cry. I couldn't let him make a fool of himself. I'll just have to wait for Dad to come. He'll support me. As soon as I saw my father, who was invited to the school by the teacher, the grievances that I had suppressed came flooding back like a tide. As soon as I opened my mouth, I burst into tears. "Dad. Cry. 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 Just cry. Apologize to them." My father's voice was like thunder, making my ears buzz. "Can't you look where you're going when you're walking? You're just causing trouble for me all day long." "Dad." I didn't. I was looking at the road carefully. He pushed me, still being stubborn. Dad raised his hand. The hands that lifted me up high when I was a child, now lifted up again. Then it landed hard on my butt. The office was very quiet, and I could only hear my own loud crying. There was also a boy standing next to him who was sneering softly. His voice brought me back to reality. "And haven't you figured it out yet? Your dad doesn't love you at all. You go home by yourself every day. If he really loves you, why wouldn't he come to pick you up?" I was stunned for a moment. It turns out that even my father can see that he doesn't love me. He insisted, "Why don't you just give me the money and I'll be your father?" Ha 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 ha. He smiled triumphantly for a long time, as if he suddenly had a good idea. "You can get the money back if you want." He pointed to a pool of spit on the ground. "You lick my saliva clean and I'll give it to you." "I don't lick it." My voice trembled. His face suddenly turned red and he grabbed the back of my collar. "Lick." He screamed and pushed me down, and my chin hit the ground, numb with pain. The tip of my nose was only a few centimeters away from the spit, and I could see the dust and small grains of sand mixed in it. Big tears fell and hit the ground. Ha 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 ha. He seemed very happy to see my miserable appearance. "Let her go." A roar rang out. I looked up and saw Keith. He was extremely angry. His eyes were wide open like a big tiger. I was so scared that I didn't dare to cry. The bad brother frowned and asked, "Who are you?" Keith said nothing, but stepped forward and kicked him. He was kicked and fell to the ground, his face falling into his own spit. Grains of sand embedded themselves in his cheeks, and drops of blood trickled down his chin. He curled up on the ground, holding his stomach, like a squashed caterpillar. He was angry and annoyed, rolling on the ground. "You dare to kick me? Do you know who my father is? I'll let my dad beat you to death." The principal, with a pale face, ran over, panting. When the bad brother saw the principal, he cried even harder. "Principal, this little girl and her father are bullying me. Please help me." My father promised to donate a library to the school. The usually gentle principal suddenly got angry. "Shut up. Do you know who is in front of you? Donating a library. The entire school is owned by the Lawrence Group. Even your dad has to use all his connections to get a chance to see him." The bad brother was so scared that he dared not speak. The always arrogant principal bowed and apologized to Keith. "I'm sorry, Mr. Keith. I didn't know she was your daughter. Looks exactly like a pug." Keith picked me up gently, but his expression was very ugly. "Does it matter whose daughter she is? This is serious school bullying. The school does not need an administrator who can't even guarantee the safety of students. I will report your work situation to the board of directors and propose to remove you from your position as principal." After saying that, Keith's eyes swept over the trembling bad brother again. "Interesting. When your father was kneeling down to beg me for investment this morning, he was full of morality and justice. The result is that the people they teach don't even know how to behave like human beings." Keith said to the secretary beside him, "Notify all partners that anyone who cooperates with this kind of rubbish will be at odds with the Lawrence family." After saying that, he turned around and carried me into the car. His voice very soft. Why aren't you talking? Are you scared? I asked him. Do you have a lot of money? He smiled and nodded. I asked again. The math teacher said that 10,000 is very big. So do you have a lot of 10,000? He tilted his head and thought for a moment. Maybe. I cried sadly. Is $181.50 too little for you? That's why you don't want to. You don't want money, do you? Don't want me either. Keith held me in his arms and coaxed me gently like my mother did back then. Although Daddy has a lot of money, Olivia has given me much more than my money. So Daddy will never abandon you. Really? He said without hesitation. Really? I laughed happily again. He looked at me. If someone bullied you, why didn't you tell me? What would you have done if I hadn't come to pick you up from school today? I lowered my head sadly. My father used to always say that the bad brother would bully Olivia instead of others. So there must be something wrong with Olivia. Because I'm afraid you'll also think there's something wrong with Olivia and won't want me anymore. I sobbed and groaned in grievance. But I really didn't do anything. I really don't know why he only bullied me. Keith was stunned for a long time before speaking. Olivia is fine. Dad will always stand by Olivia. His voice was hoarse and he sounded very sad. He patted my back again and again, repeating these two sentences over and over again, afraid that I wouldn't believe it. Keith took me back to his home. His house is big and luxurious. I've only seen houses like this on TV. There are also many employees. Just like in the book. There were many dishes on the big table. Fish, shrimp, beef. There are many dishes that I can't name. Keith said he didn't know what I liked to eat. So he asked the chef to cook it. As we were talking, Keith picked up a piece of bitter melon for me and asked, Does Olivia like bitter melon? I hate bitter melon the most. Bitter melon is the most hated vegetable in the world. When I grow up, I will pull out all the bitter gourds in the world. But I still put it in my mouth with a smile. Nodded and said I liked it. The next second, Keith instructed the uncle standing next to him. I will make bitter melon every day from now on. And you must watch her finish eating it. My face instantly felt more bitter than bitter gourd. Keith then asked, Does Olivia like bitter melon? I shook my head honestly. He put the peeled shrimp into my bowl. If you don't like something, just tell me. If you like something, just eat it. I just saw you staring at the shrimp without even touching it. You only ate the vegetables in front of you. I lowered my head silently and ate a shrimp. He asked me, Is it delicious? I nodded. It's delicious. It was so delicious that tears fell into the bowl. In the original home, since the new aunt came, when I eat, I only dare to eat the vegetables in front of me. Because every time I picked up some meat, she would hit my hand. You greedy and selfish little girl. You are not likable at all. But Keith said, To be my daughter, you don't need to be sensible, nor do you need to be likable. You can even be a little arrogant. Remember, as long as you are my daughter, Keith, everyone will like you. Keith lied to me. And Grandpa Lawrence doesn't like me. Grandpa Lawrence looked at me for a long time while leaning on his cane. Then a cane hit Keith on the back. You bastard. I was out for 2 days and when I came back you already have a 7-year-old daughter. Keith staggered half a step after being hit by the cane. But he reached out and held me tighter behind him. Where's the birth certificate? Grandpa Lawrence suddenly reached out his hand. Do you think I'm old and confused and that I can pick up a random wild child and add him to the Lawrence family bloodline? Keith sneered. I learned this from you. When my mother died just a few days ago, you couldn't wait to bring that bastard back home, saying that he was my brother. So he was my brother. A loud slap came down. Keith's head was knocked to one side, and blood instantly seeped out from the corner of his mouth. Who do you think you are, Keith? When did you ever have a say in my affairs? Keith's Adam's apple rolled violently, and when his fingertips wiped the bloodstains at the corners of his mouth, he suddenly laughed out loud. But his eyes were red. Yes. Of course I have no say in your affairs. Because you only have Kelsey as your son from beginning to end. When Kelsey was 13, he fell into a pond while playing. I went to save him despite having a high fever. When I got home, you slapped me without a word and blamed me for not taking good care of my brother. Dad. That slap cost me 30% of my hearing in my right ear. Dad. That was my 10th year of piano practice. I started at the age of 3. And for 10 years, regardless of winter or summer, I never slacked off for a single day. But you slapped me in the face. And my musical dream was over. Grandpa Lawrence sneered disdainfully. Even if I hadn't slapped you. With your talent. Do you really think you can make a name for yourself in the music industry? How are you better than others? Keith took a half step forward, his voice trembling with years of suppression. Why am I not better than others? I performed on stage at the age of 5, won the gold medal in the National Children's Piano category at the age of 7, and my performance of Chopin's Nocturnes was recorded as a teaching demonstration disc. Dad, why am I not better than others? Grandpa Lawrence smashed the Celadon teacup on the coffee table with a bang. Keith, let me tell you, the only thing that makes you better than others is that you have me as your father. What do you think your achievements mean? Without me as your father, you wouldn't even be qualified to stand here and talk to me. I gave you fine clothes and delicious food, and I gave you the opportunity to fight for the family business. Otherwise, you would be a stray dog living in the gutter. Keith suddenly threw his head back and laughed, but there was no trace of smile in his eyes. You're right. I should thank you for giving me the opportunity to be Kelsey's sharpening stone. I increased the company's profits 5-fold. What did Kelsey do? But you kicked me out with just one sentence. You're not a good person. You already gave the inheritance rights to Kelsey. Why did you want me to come back and play a supporting role in this farce? The last few words were almost squeezed out of his throat. He looked at his father with red eyes. Tell me honestly, how am I inferior to him? When have you ever treated me as your own son? When we were in school, you would check his homework before going to bed no matter how late you came home. But what about me? You never even went to a parent-teacher conference. But I always got better scores than him. I worked so hard. But I never got a single compliment from you. Grandpa Lawrence slammed the mahogany coffee table, and the tea in the cup splashed out. You're just saying all this because you're not happy with me choosing your brother as my successor. Yes. Komori may not be as capable as you, but his character is 1,000 times better than yours. With your character, you're not worthy of being the successor to my Lawrence family. He frowned and pointed at Keith. Look at you now. Bringing a girl of unknown origin and claiming she is Lawrence's child. Is that reasonable? I'm telling you, if you want her to be your daughter, don't acknowledge me as your father. I didn't understand a lot of what my grandfather said, but I understood this sentence. If Keith continued to be Olivia's dad, he would have no dad. I didn't want Keith to be without a dad. It's pitiful to have no father. I plucked up my courage and walked forward, grasping the corner of Grandpa's clothes and sobbing. Grandpa, please stop scolding Dad. Dad will be sad. Olivia, leave. Olivia doesn't want to be Dad's daughter anymore. Dad, I have always listened to you since I was a child. Keith was smiling, but his eyes were filled with tears. What books to read? What university to attend? What major to study? And even who to make friends with? He closed his eyes, as if something in his heart had broken. But you're still not satisfied with me. He looked at his father and said in a terrifyingly calm voice, when I was little, I always thought that as long as I did a little better, you would see me. Now I finally understand that there are some things that I can never wait for in my lifetime. Keith suddenly bent down and picked me up, then walked out of Lawrence's villa without looking back. Forget it. I don't want it anymore. I don't want you or the Lawrence family anymore. Keith took me into a new home, a home with just him and me. I love this new home, especially the study room in the new home. I'm doing my homework here while Keith is working. I suddenly couldn't concentrate on my homework. I was distractedly braiding Keith's hair. Suddenly, a lot of words appeared in front of me. How dare this kid tie the villain's microfragmented hair into a pigtail? The last person who touched Keith's hair has 2 meters of grass on his grave. And they used pink rubber bands. Keith hates pink the most. I looked down at Keith's hair, which was messed up by me, and my heart almost jumped out of my throat. I asked cautiously, "You don't like braids?" Keith, who was in a video conference, said sullenly, "I like it." "So, you don't like pink rubber bands?" He gritted his teeth. "I like it." I saw several uncles on the computer trying to hold back their laughter until their faces turned red. Some people suddenly lowered their heads and pretended to look for something, while others drank water frantically in front of the camera to hide their smiles. Those words began to appear again. Look at it this way. The villain Keith was pretty good. It's a pity that he died so miserably in the end. For so many years. No matter how hard he tried. Mr. Lawrence always favored Kelsey. Now the only woman he likes is also with Kelsey. If I were him, I would also turn evil. It's too bullying. Snap. The rubber band in my hand broke suddenly. The rebounding rubber hit the back of my hand hard, and a burning pain exploded instantly. I burst into tears with a wow. Keith hurriedly ended the meeting and looked at my hand with a frown. I was crying so hard that I could hardly breathe. He coaxed me for a long time in a gentle voice. "What's wrong? Tell Daddy." I sobbed and said to him, "I saw someone say you are the villain and Uncle Kelsey is the hero." His face suddenly darkened, and even his voice became cold. "Who said that?" I shook my head. "I don't know them." He slowly let me go and said in a low voice. So Olivia was so scared that she started crying. I nodded. Then he began to sob again. "The villain will be defeated by the protagonist and die miserably. Just like the queen in Snow White. Olivia is so scared that you will end up like that. Olivia doesn't want you to die." Keith's tense jaw suddenly relaxed, and he held me in his arms. "So that's what Olivia is worried about. Don't worry. Olivia is on Dad's side. Even if Dad is a villain, he is the most powerful villain. He will not lose. And he will not die." But it seems like Keith didn't take it to heart at all. After thinking about it, I still feel uneasy. No, we can't leave this matter to him alone. Keith had a tragic ending because he was a villain. Then can't I just turn him into a good person? I'm so smart. So when Keith came to pick me up the next day, I stood at the intersection and refused to leave. Keith pulled me and said, "Olivia, the light is green. It's time to cross the road. The driver is waiting for us on the other side." I shook off his hand, turned around and ran to hug a roadside tree. "I'm not leaving. I don't like the green light right now. I have to wait until the green light I like before I leave." Keith squatted down helplessly and poked my puffy cheeks. "Then Dad will wait with Olivia." But my eyes were not on the traffic lights, but on both ends of the road. When I caught a glimpse of an old lady walking towards me tremblingly with a basket of vegetables across the street, I jumped up, grabbed Keith's tie and rushed forward. "Dad, look. It's a grandma crossing the road. Go and help her cross the road." Keith was coughing because of the tie, and before he could react I pushed him into the middle of the street. The old lady was so frightened that she took a step back, and the tomatoes in the basket rolled to our feet. I squatted down to pick up the tomatoes and put them into the basket, tilting my head back and winking at Keith. My eyes almost twitched, and Keith forced a smile and reached out to help her. Grandma waved her hands, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. "Young man, no need." I was not willing to give up, so I grabbed Keith's wrist and pressed it on Grandma's arm. "Grandma, please let my dad help you cross the road. He is especially good at helping old ladies cross the road." Grandma couldn't help laughing. "Then your father is a really good man. But Grandma needs to go to the supermarket in front to buy a bottle of soy sauce. Don't cross the road." My face turned red all the way to my ears and I said, "Oh," in frustration. After Grandma walked away, Keith squatted down and looked at me at eye level. "Olivia, why do you suddenly want Dad to do good things?" I sniffed and took out a crumpled art book from my school bag. Written crookedly on it was, "Keith's Good Person Points List." The teacher said good people will be rewarded. Look. I took the initiative to explain the questions to my classmates, picked up the trash in the classroom, and helped the teacher get books. I have already accumulated 3 points. I thrust the scorebook into his hands. These points are for Dad. Once you have accumulated 100 points, you will no longer be a villain, but a good person, and you will not die. Keith ran his fingers over his name in the art book. Then he suddenly hugged me in his arms. His voice choked with sobs. Okay. Dad promises you that from today on, I will be a good person. After that day, Keith became very busy. In the past, he would pick me up at the school gate on time every day and bring me a small cake. But now the school bell rang, and I rushed out with my small school bag on my back. The neck is almost stretched to be that of a giraffe, but I only saw the driver uncle standing there. He touched my head and said, Mr. Keith is very busy lately. I returned home dejected, eating and doing homework alone. At 9 o'clock, the nanny urged me to go to bed, but I don't want to sleep. I want to wait for my dad to come back. I curled up on the sofa and put my favorite strawberry cake on the coffee table. I want to wait for my dad to come back and eat together. The cartoons on TV were broadcast episode after episode. The cream on the strawberry cake also began to collapse. My eyelids became heavier and heavier, and my head kept falling down. Every time I was about to fall asleep, I pinched my hands hard. Olivia, you can't sleep until Daddy has had his strawberry cake. Finally, with a click, the door opened. I jumped up from the sofa. He ran towards the door barefoot without even putting on slippers. Olivia, why aren't you asleep yet? Keith ruffled my hair, his voice husky. I hugged his waist, buried my face in his arms, and said sullenly, Dad hasn't eaten the cupcake with Olivia yet, so the day isn't over yet and he can't go to bed. Keith was stunned for a moment, then squatted down to look me in the eye. I'm sorry. Dad came home too late today. I must eat small cakes with Olivia every day from now on. Olivia, do you want to live in England? I looked up and asked, What is England? Dad scooped out a small piece of cake and fed it to me. It's a very nice place with beautiful red houses and very heavy snow in the winter. I nodded without hesitation. As long as she's with her dad. Olivia likes living anywhere. That night, as soon as I got into bed, I fell into a deep sleep. When I opened my eyes again, I was already in England. In front of me is a super beautiful red house, like a castle in a fairy tale. There were large flakes of snow floating in the sky, falling on the tip of my nose. Feeling cool, my father and I built a tall snowman in the snow. I put my dad's scarf and my bow on it. It's so cute. I giggled with joy. But at this moment, with a bang, Dad suddenly fell in the snow. I ran over and hugged him. Warm blood kept pouring out of his body. The white snow was dyed red and could not be wiped clean. I shouted for my father so hard that my throat almost broke. But he never opened his eyes again. Dad. I suddenly sat up from the bed. Tears rolled down one by one. At this moment, those strange words appeared again. Oh my God. I stayed up all night reading a novel and Keith got up to work. Is he working so hard? No wonder they were able to team up with their rivals to bring down the Lawrence family, and then fled to England with all their wealth. Ha 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 ha. He's truly the hardest working villain I've ever seen. Brother, you will succeed in everything you do with this kind of perseverance. Alas, it's a pity that we still lost in the end and died miserably in Britain. I huddled up with my knees hugged, feeling extremely scared. But since that day, Dad has become busier. When I woke up in the morning, my father was already out. When I fell asleep at night, my father still hadn't come back. I haven't seen my dad the whole day. I counted on my fingers. I haven't seen my father for almost 5 days. Suddenly, my father's voice came from the door. I ran out happily and hugged my father tightly. Daddy spanked me lightly. You're so naughty. Have you said hello to your aunt? It was only then that I noticed there was a beautiful aunt behind my father. I smiled sweetly and said, Hello, Beautiful Auntie. Auntie ruffled my hair gently. Hello, Olivia. I tugged at Keith's shirt, and he squatted down as if he understood what I meant. I stood on tiptoe and whispered in his ear. Is this the person you like? He looked at me in surprise. How did you know? I was a little proud. I can tell from your eyes. I looked up at my father. My eyes a little sore. Dad, I haven't seen you for a long time. Actually, I have a lot of things to tell you. I counted on my fingers. I got 100 points in math and made a beautiful lantern. But it's okay, Olivia. You can hold it in until the next time you are free. Today you must want to be with the person you like more. She can make you happy. Olivia wants to make you happy. After saying that, I turned to the pretty aunt and tried to smile. Pretty aunt, play with Daddy. Olivia is going to do her homework. But I started crying as soon as I got back to my room. I looked at the little rabbit lantern on the desk and cried so sadly. I made that little lantern for my father, whose zodiac sign is rabbit. His name was also written on it. It took me a long time to learn how to write his name. As I was crying, another line of words floated before my eyes. Wow, the villain Keith is finally going to do something. First step, imprison the heroine. Second step, join forces with the enemy to destroy the Lawrence Group. Third step, take the huge fortune and flee to England. This is revenge. The heroine should be more careful. You come when the villain asks you to. Just drink the coffee he hands you. There is medicine in it. You will be silent after drinking it. I jumped up suddenly. I ran downstairs and just happened to see Keith handing a cup of coffee to a beautiful aunt. I forced a smile and said to my aunt coquettishly, Auntie, this cup of coffee looks delicious. Can I give it to Olivia? Auntie pinched my face and said, Olivia, be good. Children won't grow taller if they drink coffee. Keith also frowned and said sternly, Olivia, stop messing around. Children can't drink coffee. No. I was so anxious that I stamped my feet and tears were about to come out. But the words suddenly got stuck on my lips, should I say. There are words in front of me that they can't see. And they said Dad put drugs in the coffee. I would be considered crazy. I hung my head in frustration. Auntie bent down and touched my head. Her tone gentle. When Olivia grows up, Auntie will treat you to coffee. Okay. After saying that, she raised her head and drank the coffee in her hand in one gulp, as if she was afraid that I would snatch it away. I stared at the beautiful aunt nervously. The strange thing was that the aunt neither fainted nor foamed at the mouth. She didn't stay long before saying goodbye to us and leaving safely. I stared at her back blankly and couldn't help but exclaimed, Why is she fine? Keith lowered his eyelids and spoke after a long time. Is there something wrong with her? I tugged at the corner of my clothes and thought for a while. Then whispered, Olivia accidentally fell asleep while doing her homework, and dreamed that you put drugs in her coffee and wanted to lock up the beautiful aunt. So you came down here to get her that cup of coffee. He leaned down to look me in the eye. His eyes filled with emotions I couldn't understand. I nodded vigorously. Olivia can't let Dad be a bad guy. He turned his face away, his Adam's apple rolling twice with difficulty. Actually, Dad was planning to do that. Dad wants to keep her by my side forever in this way. My eyes widened in surprise. But Dad didn't do that. Did he? He suddenly hugged me into his arms, resting his chin on the top of my head, and spoke in a muffled and nasal voice. Yes. Because Olivia just taught me with her actions that if you like someone, you should make her happy, not force her to make you happy. Dad didn't mean to be a bad guy today. He just didn't know how to love someone. Olivia, please don't blame Dad. Okay. I hugged him tightly and patted his back comfortingly. It's okay, Dad. It's not your fault. I thought about it seriously. Maybe it's because no one has ever loved you before. Then he told him very seriously and solemnly. From now on, Olivia will love you well. That's how you learn to love. His body trembled violently and then fell into a long silence. I felt the warm liquid sliding down my neck into my collar. Again and again. Dad seems to be crying. After an unknown amount of time, Keith's breathing finally calmed down. He let me go, smiled and rubbed my head. Olivia, didn't you say you had a lot of things to tell Dad? My eyes suddenly lit up, and I turned around and ran upstairs, holding the little rabbit lantern in my arms, and rushed down, carefully handing it to my father. Dad, look. This is what Teacher Jackson taught us to make in art class today. Teacher Jackson praised my bunny as the most beautiful and asked me to teach other kids how to fold their ears. Without waiting for his response, I hurriedly took out the math test paper from my school bag. And more. I got full marks in math. My deskmate Alice even treated me to some gummy candies today. They were really delicious. I saved one for you. I rambled on and on for I don't know how long. But Dad listened very carefully, without yawning or looking at his phone. Since my mother passed away, no one has listened to me for so long. So I was very happy to speak and kept on talking, until my mouth was dry and I was extremely thirsty. Dad patiently brought me a glass of water. Olivia, I'm sorry. Daddy has been too busy recently. I will talk to Olivia every day from now on. I drank the water in big gulps, and said, loudly and happily. He gently wiped the water from the corners of my mouth. Dad has prepared everything. We will go to live in England next week. Since Olivia likes the teachers and children at school so much, you should say goodbye to them properly this week. Okay. I nodded obediently. The next day after school, my dad finally came to pick me up again. As I happily got into the car, I chattered the new nursery rhymes I had learned today. It was not until I opened the door that I realized the atmosphere in the living room was extremely depressing. Grandpa Lawrence and a tall and thin uncle were sitting in the living room. They looked so angry. Olivia didn't dare to speak. Keith, are you crazy? Grandpa Lawrence's voice was like exploding thunder. 3 years of research and development of core technology. 37 backbones. You took them all away. The Lawrence family just negotiated a $100 million project. And now the core technology is gone. Do you want the Lawrence family to use their family assets to pay the sky-high penalty? The tall and thin uncle sneered and rapped his knuckles on the table. Those technologies are projects invested by the group. Why can you just take them away and... Why? Keith glanced at him, his eyes sharp as a knife. From the initiation of the project to its implementation, I slept in the lab with my team for hundreds of days and nights. The codes, drawings, patents, all of them were my hard work from beginning to end. Kelsey, be honest with yourself. Does that technology have anything to do with you? Yes. It is a project invested by the Lawrence Group. But the money it has earned for the Lawrence family in the past 2 years has already paid back the investment several times. Isn't that enough? Grandpa Lawrence slammed his cane on the tile. You are stealing company assets. Dad, I'm going to England next week. Dad suddenly choked up. I didn't take a penny from Lawrence's family. But these achievements belong to me. Keith, can't I take my own things? Grandpa Lawrence's lips trembled, and panic finally came out of his old voice. What are you doing in England? Keith looked at him calmly. I got an offer from the Royal College of Art. I want to study, start a business, and live the life I want. Grandpa Lawrence stumbled forward half a step, holding his son tightly with his dry hands. Then, will you come back? Keith said nothing. I'm here, and your brother is here too. You will come back eventually, right? Grandpa Lawrence, who is always dignified, spoke in a soft tone for the first time, sounding as if he was begging him, and he just looked at his father's hand in silence. When he was a child, he most wanted his father to reach out to him and hug him. But he waited and waited until he no longer longed to be held by his father. So he reached out and gently pried his father's hand away. No, Leo. He has been in the business world for nearly 40 years, even in the face of the huge waves of the financial crisis. His legs stood straight to support his business empire. But at this moment, this powerful man seemed to have suddenly aged 10 years. His legs were slightly bent, as if he was about to kneel down at any second. Because he knew, his eldest son, This usually most obedient son. In fact, the heart is the cruelest. Love the most cruelly. Hate the most cruelly. If he says he won't come back, then he really won't come back. He stared at Keith without missing a beat, his voice hoarse as if it had been sanded. Keith, Dad is wrong. Dad shouldn't be partial. The inheritance should be given to you. But at this moment, Keith silently picked up the little girl beside him and turned away without looking back. This house was bought with Lawrence's money. If you like it, you can stay here. My dad brought me to KFC today, and we are going to have a happy birthday. Leo lowered his head and found that it was hot tears that hit the ground, leaving dark watermarks. Olivia is going to England today. I sat in the car and stuck my little head out of the window. I looked carefully at this city where I had lived for 7 years. I saw the owner of my favorite cake shop making delicious and soft strawberry cake. It looks delicious. The car drove forward and arrived at my elementary school. I saw Susan, who loved to sleep in class, yawning while going to school and accidentally fell down. I saw my deskmate Alice couldn't tie his red scarf properly and he was crying in frustration. Ha 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 ha. So funny. As Olivia laughed, drops of water rolled down her face. The car continued to drive forward and arrived at Olivia's former home. I saw my old dad and aunt fighting. His aunt scolded him for having no job and relying on women for support, calling him the most useless thing in the world. My father was drunk and hit her, leaving her with a black eye and a swollen face. My grandparents were crying and shouting to try to stop the fight. I remembered that the bad brother's father is my father's boss. Because I offended Keith, the bad brother's father's company went bankrupt. Dad has no job. The car continued to move forward, to drive to beautiful England. It's time to drive to Olivia and Keith's wonderful life. End of full text.